City Council. We're going to go ahead and get started as our regular meeting starts at 7 o'clock. And so I want to welcome you all that are here today. And I want to introduce City Councilors Victor Davila for Ward 6 and City Councilor at Large Cateri Walsh. And I think that is all the councilors that we have right now. Some could still join. And so, yes, Marcus is away, the council president who usually runs these meetings. And as the vice president, I'm going to take on the role of running the meeting today. We are going to go in the order that we receive requests for folks to speak. Everyone has 3 minutes, 3 minutes to speak on whatever topic it is you came to speak on. You will have 3 minutes. I will be monitoring that closely because we do have our regular city council meeting to get to. Please, when you're called, state your name and your address for the record, and I will remind you all to do so. And I just want to welcome Councilor Justin Hurst that just joined, Councilor at Large, the meeting.
I'm also on, Tracy.
And Councilor Tim Allen, Ward 7 Councilor. So thank you for joining. And the first person who signed up for public speak out is Rose Webster Smith.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Rose Webster Smith, 87 Leatherleaf Drive. And I am the director of Springfield No One Leaves, a community organization that organizes tenants and homeowners facing foreclosure. So I'm speaking tonight on the resolution to support the COVID-19 eviction and foreclosure bill to promote an equitable housing recovery. In Hampden County, since the eviction and foreclosure moratorium lifted, there's been almost 1,700 eviction cases filed, with 1,100 of those right here in Springfield. We have over 200 executions, which can be levied by the sheriff, which will lift on July 31st, as well as over 600 mortgages that can be foreclosed on in Springfield when those other protections lift also on July 31st under the CARES Act, which has been holding up the foreclosures for Fannie and Freddie, FHA, VA, and USAA. We know across the state there's 28,000 mortgages that are more than a year in default, which is on par with numbers we saw in 2010 and 2011. The COVID-19 Housing Equity Bill is the only bill that addresses tenants, homeowners, and small landlords. So we need to be able to be prepared to protect our communities when those protections lift. As I said, there's over 200 executions out there that can be moved out. There's over 100 judgments, which is the step right before an execution issues. So we are facing massive displacement in the city of Springfield, and we are asking that the city council sign on to the resolution to support our bill so that we can protect our residents.
Thank you very much, Ms. Smith. Councilor Walsh, did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't get
before
to that,
you speak, Councilor. Councilor,
yeah,
before you speak, let me introduce Councilor Jesse Letterman, City Councilor at Large. Welcome, Councilor.
Yes. Thank you, Rose, for your presentation. I'm curious as to what the next step is. It is my sense that the council will support this measure. What happens next? Where do you go from here? Does it have to go on to the state?
So it's already in the State House. We are pushing really hard for a hearing. We are getting word that the hearing could happen sometime in August, even though they're on break. They are fully aware that the CDC moratorium is not going to be extended, and neither are the foreclosure and eviction protections for homeowners. None of those protections will be extended beyond July 31st. So they're moving as fast as they possibly can. which is why, we're asking that our local mayors and city councilors pass this resolution so that our legislators are aware that we need these protections. Otherwise, the displacement will get real. And the one part I did forget to mention is that there's a huge concentration of evictions in the North End, South End, Metro Center, and Lower Liberty Heights. Those make up 800 of the evictions, and which is, in the predominantly Black and Brown and Indigenous communities.
Well, I wish you great success.
Thank you.
Something I can definitely support. Counselor Davila.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rose, good to see you. I do believe I heard that 27,000 people throughout the state are in danger. What's the number for Springfield?
So, in Springfield, and again, this is an estimate based on numbers that I've had that I know that are holding up, and there's roughly 600 homeowners that are in danger that are more than a year in default. And I just want to be clear that 28,000 number, that's default. That's not people that are in forbearance. Those are people that are directly in the foreclosure pipeline right now.
Wow. So 800, does 800 is homeowners or just including renters?
So we don't differentiate. We just go by the property. We go by the legal notices. So they can be multifamily units. They can be single family units. And Western Mass never recovered from the first foreclosure crisis. The foreclosures never stopped here.
Right.
So we are 54% speculator owned in our single family properties.
Right.
So there is no way for us to differentiate besides door knocking, whether it's occupied by a tenant or occupied by the mortgagee.
Right. Thank you, Rose. Madam Chair, I saw the updated agenda, but I don't see, is this on the agenda today? Because I don't see it on the agenda.
Yeah, I think there was a resolution on there. I'm not sure who presented it though.
Yeah, I don't see it on either the old agenda or the new agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Oh, I just found it.
the resolution,
Yeah.
it should be on towards the bottom,
I see.
Mhm.
Okay. If you blink, you miss it. Okay.
and we certainly welcome as many co-sponsors as possible.
Okay. All right. I think,
Counselor, let me move on to Counselor Hurst if there's
Yes.
no further questions.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question, Rose. What does this bill do for your small business owners / landlords? I think one of the things that has always troubled me, especially with the moratorium, is that while yes, they can't foreclose on the actual homeowner, but at the end of the day, they're not receiving rent, and they haven't been receiving rent throughout this time. And it's not as though, throughout that year that, they still don't have to pay for their mortgage, right? So what is this bill? And even if they tack it on at the end, right, and allow for, sort of a moratorium, for lack of a better words, or I forget what you call it when you tack it on to the end. I mean, it still doesn't make the landlord whole again.
Modification type.
No, it's called.
Normally what they do is just add it to the very end of the note.
Mhm.
So that's a deferment. That's a deferment.
It still doesn't account for the money that they should have received from the tenants. And so that has always been my big issue. And I haven't seen anything, unless it's in this bill, that is going to account for that. They ought to have paid the landlords for a year and a half worth of mortgage, right? The same way that they allowed the landlords not to foreclose on them. So if you could just speak to that briefly. I mean, I want to support it, but that's always a troubling aspect for me.
So here's the situation. I'm going to be really real. Wayfinders, who does the rental assistance applications, is processing applications at a number equivalent to Boston, right? So that we have over $400 million for landlords to be made whole by their tenants. We also have 176 million coming for homeowners and small landlords that can be used for property taxes, mortgages, upkeep of the building, whatever it's needed for. But that money, the plan is due at the end of this month. So that program will not be up and running until sometime September, October, in that window. The money is coming and the money is there. The problem is the information isn't reaching the homeowners or the tenants. So we've been doing a real, we're not a service organization, but we've made a concerted effort to do these applications. We're looking at going into community centers because we want our small landlords to be whole. And we want them to get paid. And the main issue with the foreclosure part, as we saw with the HAMP programs, is the banks are not set up to accept the amount of paperwork that is needed when someone is trying to modify the loan. So it makes all loans follow one process, which is, how to come out of forbearance. So there's post forbearance modifications, there's deferments, but the money is all there and it's provided by the federal government. It's really slowing down the eviction process so that the money can get to the landlords. But we have the money, and I'll let Andrea from Massachusetts Law Reform speak a little bit more about how much money there really is. But the money is there to make people whole. It's really getting that information and assisting especially our elderly population on how to do this with technology, right? Because
So we do have to move on. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but we do have to move on because there's 4 other speakers and I want to give them enough time, and we only got like 18 minutes left, 19.
Madam Chair, if I just point clarification, quick 10 seconds before we go on. I've been looking for the actual resolution. I cannot find it on my agenda. If somebody could send it to me, please, so I can read it before the meeting. I just cannot find it.
The city clerk is on. Gladys, would you be able to, Commissioner, get that resolution to Councilor Davila?
I can email it to him, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Clerk, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Rose. I'm all set, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you. Thank you. Kamala Dunwell, your name and address, I probably messed it up. Oh, it's Muhammad. I'm sorry. I probably messed it up. And name and address for the record.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Kalima Mohammed, and I am, yes, thank you. I am my address is 20 Hughes Street, Springfield 01108. And I am the new tenant organizer for Springfield No One Leaves. And I'm speaking tonight on behalf of support of this COVID-19 housing equity bill. So my biggest concern really has been what I've seen with the tenants that I've worked with. A lot of them are older folks, are elderly people who have very limited access to technology or just knowledge of how all this new fast-paced technology works. Just the other day, I received a call from a woman who was crying, an elderly woman who has anxiety disorder, is disabled, and is facing eviction. She missed her tier 1 court meeting simply because she doesn't know how to use computers. And even if she did, she probably wouldn't be able to see the screen. These are a lot of the tenants that I've received calls from or have assisted with Wayfinder's applications. And I think the biggest thing that this bill would do is just help folks that can't necessarily help themselves or just don't understand where resources are. A lot of folks don't even know that there are rental assistance applications out there. And beyond that, just helping folks that can't go back to work at all, that are still afraid of the pandemic. There are many older folks that I've noticed in Springfield who are still very hesitant about getting the vaccine, which is all, everybody has the right to determine what happens to their own body, but that doesn't mean that folks should end up out on the street. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalima. Definitely appreciate that. The next speaker we have is Andrea Park.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Andrea Park. I'm an attorney
Oh,
in Massachusetts.
I'm sorry, Andrea, one moment. I just want to recognize Counselor Brown, Ward 4, and Counselor Fenton, Ward 2.
Thank you. I live on Maple Avenue in Shrewsbury, so I'm not a Springfield resident, but as a resident of Central Mass, and everyone calls it Western Mass, I'm familiar with Springfield and have been there often. I work for Mass Law Reform Institute, which is a statewide legal aid policy center. So I work closely with Rose at Springfield No One Leaves and with our colleagues at Community Legal Aid, who I'm sure you're familiar with. And I really got into working with Rose and other groups during the foreclosure crisis. And I really just want to thank this body for its strong support during the foreclosure crisis. And then also during COVID, just in support of the moratorium. I do think that this sort of municipal support does mean a lot. Councilor Walsh, you asked a question about what's next. You know, the Housing Committee has, obviously the legislature has a lot on its plate. And I think one of the challenges that we've had is that it really, certainly the governor and a lot of people are feeling very much like they'd like to move on from COVID. And I think we share that feeling, but I think on the ground, you all are the ones who really do know what's happening with people in your communities, and people are not moving on. They're very much in crisis. And I think that, I have little kids, and the Delta variant is, things haven't changed that much for us. So I think it's important for municipal leaders to sort of speak out about what's going on. And I'm really appreciative that you're taking this up tonight. I was going to give some other sort of facts about the bill, but I think I'd just like to address some of the concerns that have been raised here. Rose mentioned the 28,000 people who are behind. The National Consumer Law Center experts tell us that, a lot of the lenders have been waiting to do their foreclosures until the federal moratorium lifts. And so they're looking at a potential backlog that could be much bigger than what we saw in 2008. And so, that strikes fear in my heart. And I think just not only the big foreclosure mess that Rose talked about, but these are all going to be evictions, this year, next year, in 2 years that we're going to be dealing with. There have been over 18,000 eviction cases filed in Massachusetts since October, since the moratorium lifted. These are largely invisible to people. And I think the rental assistance problem is real. And I know Councilor Hirsch, you had a question about this. There's almost $900 million of federal money just for rental assistance in Massachusetts, but you wouldn't know it because there's so many people. I get calls from service providers who still think that the old raft rules apply. Virtually anyone who applies is able to get this money right now. And so I think it's important when talking to landlords to sort of separate who's really doesn't know and who just doesn't want to deal. And I think I get why some landlords are just like, I've done raft before, it's only $4,000, it takes too long. And it does take a long time. Our colleagues over at Wayfinders are working their butts off, and it's unprecedented the volume of applications they have right now. Between January and May, there were like 90% of the rental assistance applications in the state were denied. And a lot of those were almost certainly due to just timing out because there's so much problem in communication with these rental assistance applications. So a lot of this is, not the fault of the people, Wayfinders. The Department of Housing and Community Development is setting a lot of the rules. The federal government, the White House has been very public in saying, we want this money to be allocated quickly. We want it to be flexible. We want to pay tenants directly. And DHCD has unfortunately not been quick to make these flexible rules apply. And so people are having a harder and harder time applying. They don't know about the money. The state, just as an example, spent a lot of money putting signs up on the Mass Pike instead of giving money to groups like Springfield No One Leaves, who are actually in the community. They're starting to sort of correct course on that now, but it's just taking a long time, and people are losing the race and being evicted in the meantime. And if the foreclosures are allowed to happen in addition to all of this, then we really are looking at a big crisis. It has seemed to feel sort of underground, and I think that is really unfortunate. There's been enough that's been happening to sort of keep a crisis from brewing, but I can tell you that the people who we talk to every day who are seeking shelter, who are unable to get in, who don't know where to go, cannot find an apartment, who still can't look for places because they have young children, the trauma is very real for them. And it's terrifying to think that our state legislature might leave them out in the cold. So I think, there, and I know Councilor Hurst, you asked about small business. There was a small business provision.
Unfortunately, time is up.
Sorry.
So I think that we could connect with Counselor Hurst offline. We got Rose information. Andrea will get yours and we'll connect offline and see how we can support and help and go to the state and fight, okay?
Thank you so much.
All righty. Sorry about that. We actually have Charles Lucas that was supposed to be joining us, and I don't see him. So we'll move forward to Rhonda Latney. And if you can say your name and address for the record.
Rhonda Latney, 22
Latney.
Scarlett Road, Springfield, Mass. Am I on? Because I'm still dealing with this new technology.
Yeah, you are on, Rhonda. We can see you. You're on.
And I'm an elder, so you got to give me time. So
Are
I'm
you?
here regard- Excuse me?
I said,
I'm
are
here-
you? I couldn't tell.
Yes, I'm 60 now. Okay,
Okay.
so I'm here regarding the police developing relationships within the community and what's going on with the ACLU and the complaints within the narcotics division of the Springfield Police Department. I spoke to city council members back in May about a similar incident with police and their incompetence and what I believe to be corruption with, I don't know if I can mention certain names within the police department of the SUV, Detective McCain and Sergeant Simmons. And I brought the complaint about 108-year-old Berta Howard, who is your oldest elder in the city of Springfield. And when I brought this to the city council members' attention, for the city to be developing relationships for within the community, I was surprised about the no trespass order that I received from Springfield Police Commissioner Cheryl Caparode, and it was partially completed. And that when I went to the civil office to find out if she took the correct procedures of following this no trespass against me, that barred me from going into any police facilities to file charges for an investigation in the elderly abuse of Roberta Howard. And they said there was nothing there in civil court. And once again, the way she sent that to me regarding Miss Roberta, who is still incarcerated in a nursing home because of the actions of the Springfield Police and of the district attorney that not properly investigating this elderly abuse case. So I'm asking, how often does the Springfield Police Commissioner, and what is the process for issuing a no trespass to citizens that bar them from police facilities in Springfield? How do I find out that information?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rhonda. And I sent your complaint over to the police commissioner to find out if it was true. And she said, as far as you getting a restraining order, and she said that it was in fact true. And
it's a no trespass order.
No trespass order, I'm sorry. And then that she said that information would be sent to me, and it was. And somehow the victim become victimized, and I became a target as well in the response from the deputy that I won't name right now. He was very upset. So I'm still trying to move forward on where to go right now. And if any of the counselors want that response, I think I sent it to the counselors because I definitely sent it to the media. But if any of the counselors want the response that I received from that deputy, I'll be happy to forward it. But right now I was working behind the scenes with folks to see what the next step should be, Rhonda. So I haven't dropped the ball on it. It probably is not moving as fast as you want it to, but I just wanted you to know that I'm trying to get some advice on what to do as well for myself.
Ms. Whitfield, you were the only person throughout the entire city that gave me any kind of response, and I appreciate it, and I thank you very much. And I would definitely encourage a number of my friends and colleagues to vote for you. And I have reached out to the Captain Mulchby about the incident, and his response to me was that they don't have to give a reason why issuing me a no trespass order. Once again, it's not about me. It's about Alberta Howard, the oldest person here, who is now incarcerated and isolated in Care One nursing home because once again, the district attorney and Springfield Police Department failed to properly investigate this elderly abuse. And with the Massachusetts Senior Action Centers having the rally, and this whole situation is done, and this woman is stuck in this situation because everyone is afraid. And I've known other people have been harassed by trying to assist her. So if we're looking at developing police better community relationships, Alberta Howard has not committed any crimes. So this is something that everyone, I feel, should have dear to their heart. And that for this woman to spend her last years of her precious life in this situation by Springfield Commissioner Capero and all these people and agencies that are supposed to protect the elderly and has failed drastically. And it's not what I'm saying, it's very well documented. And somehow, and I hope and pray, we can get her out of this situation before she expired in this nursing home because of the actions of Detective McCain, Sergeant Simmons, District Attorney Joan Bryant.
Okay, so we heard you, Rhonda. I know you called me, but I have been under the weather, so
I
I will
know.
get back to you
Thank you.
soon and let you know where I am in the process. And if any of the other counselors want to know more information, I'll be happy to give it to them.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. And that is the last person that we have signed up for public speak out since Charles Lucas did not show up. So we are done with the public speak out portion, and I'll see you all in 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Have a good
All
evening.
right. Thank you.